The Journey to God Comes Full Circle by Miss Daniela Danilo. The journey to God is merely the edge of where you are always a journey without distance to truth can only be experienced, it cannot be explained. I was born in Baku, Azerbaijan, a republic of the former Soviet Union, to a Jewish father and Christian mother. My parents, however, did not practice their religions. My father never went to the temple, and my mother went to the church occasionally. However, I was aware that I am Jewish because we observed the holiday of Passover. But then, I didn't even know its significance, and no one explained it to me. All I knew was that we were not allowed to eat regular bread for a week and instead had unleavened flatbread, matzah. Much later, when I was about 13, I learned about the history of Judaism, along with my sister, in Jewish Sunday school. Whenever my mother went to church, she would take me with her. However, she never spoke much about Jesus. She observed the festival of Easter by cooking a special meal but never mentioned Christmas or its significance. The Christmas tree that we joyously decorated every year was not done as part of religion but as our New Year's celebration. The reawakening of the knolls, and what you are forever. It is a goal that has never changed. It cannot be described, and a path to God through Israel. I knew there was a God for as long as I could remember. My earliest awareness of God was around the age of 5. I had a connection that I simply couldn't explain. It was just a sense of knowing that there is God and that God is my Father who loves me and everyone else. Sometimes, I would hear remarks about a judgmental and punishing God, but I just knew that was far from the truth because it was not my experience of who God was, love and gentleness. One Sunday at the Jewish school, I heard about an organization that supported and assisted youth immigrating to Israel. I welcomed the opportunity to travel to Israel as my 15th birthday gift, and with 40 other kids, I boarded the airplane to Tel Aviv. Upon arrival, we were assigned to different schools, and I traveled to the north of Israel, which was surrounded by mountains and forests. It was a serene and peaceful place, and the people were friendly and welcoming. In school, we studied the Torah daily, in addition to academics. We prayed and sang for God, and I developed an intense yearning for God. One day, when everybody was at lunch, I sneaked into the temple and stood before the Torah scrolls. I could feel God's Spirit upon me. I knew God was real, but somehow I also knew that this was not my path to Him. I completed school, lived my life, and lived my dreams. But life was wonderful only because I wasn't aware of how miserable I was. When I was 24, one of my best friends invited me to attend a guided meditation for world peace. During that session, in my inner vision, I saw the lights and divine figures. Something clicked, and I immediately realized that this was my path to God. Introduction to Satya Sai Baba, the teacher who guided the session, was named Tikva. The name meant hope, and that is what she offered me. Whatever she taught, she did it based on the principle that God is love and is present in all our hearts. I was inspired and signed up for the courses on meditation and alternative healing that she taught. It was at her school that, for the first time, I saw a picture of Sri Satya Sai Baba. I asked her, "Who is that scary-looking man with big hair?" "He is my guru," she replied. "He lives in India and is an avatar. God descended to earth." I just heard her out and did not feel the slightest inclination or desire to meet this avatar or even to know more about him. It was around this time that my acting career started to pick up. I got cast in a feature film alongside a few famous actors in Israel. However, since I didn't have proper training in acting, my director suggested that I go to Los Angeles to study under Lee Strasberg and upgrade my skills in acting. Without thinking twice, I took this advice, left everything, my career, my friends, and my family behind, and moved to the USA. I was staying at my cousin's place in Los Angeles. One morning there was a heavy package for me from the United States Postal Service. It was a Russian edition of A Course in Miracles, ASIM, a psychological mind training book based on universal spiritual themes. The goal of this course is the attainment of inner peace through forgiveness. I started to take the course sincerely, attending workshops and study groups. I learned how to relinquish thoughts based on fear and adopt new thoughts based on love. Going beyond the senses, I was guided to perceive the truth through forgiveness and surrender. I learned that God is my life, my source. God is everything to me, my mother, my father, and my friend. One day, after attending the ASIM study group in Anaheim, I found that my car had broken down. One of the attendees kindly offered to let me stay overnight. When I entered his house, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was filled with pictures of Satya Sai Baba. My friend explained that he had regular devotional meetings at his place. I felt the energy in his house, and I knew it was an invitation. There was no room or corner in the house without a picture of this man Swami. That night, I slept in a guest room surrounded by Swami's portraits, and I knew he was calling me. Travel to Puttaparthi a month later, a friend who lived in Australia suggested that we could go to India and perhaps meet in Puttaparthi. This felt like the continuation of the invitation for me. I was very curious about Baba, though I didn't think of him as anything more than a saint. So, in March 2011, I was on my way to India along with my mother. 3 days before our departure, we learned that Bhagwan Baba had been hospitalized. When we arrived at Puttaparthi a few days after Shivratri, Swami continued to be in the hospital. We went to the mandir and sat through the prayer and bhajan sessions. It felt beautiful, and the unity of the voices opened up my heart. Tears would flow copiously during many such sessions. After 21 days, it was time for our departure, and we still hadn't seen Swami. 3 days later, we heard that Bhagwan had attained Mahasamadhi. The Dream, Darshan and Sai Center, I returned to Los Angeles and continued with my ASIM study. In November 2011, I had my first dream of Bhagwan. He was sitting, surrounded by devotees in a circle. Though he didn't speak to me, he gazed at me penetratingly. I simply knew he was calling on me to travel back to India. Once again, in 2013, my mother and I decided to go to Puttaparthi. This time, we arrived a few days before Mahashivratri and had a blissful time. My mother was very happy, and I was glad to see her surrounded by like-minded, spiritual people. Again, after spending 21 days, we returned home. This time, after my return, I decided to attend a Sai center and participate in center activities. On the same day, I went to the Whole Foods market on Sunset Boulevard and Fairfax Avenue, where I saw a man with vibhuti on his forehead. I walked up to him joyously and asked, "Are you by any chance a Sai devotee?" He happily affirmed it and gave me directions to a Sai center nearby. The next week, I attended a devotional meeting at the Hollywood Satya Sai Center. Everything looked familiar, and the people were nice and friendly. I felt at home and started attending the center meetings regularly and participating in a variety of service projects. Satya Sai is my Jesus and his organization, my church. I used to have many dreams about Lord Jesus. In one of my visions, Jesus led me by hand to a flight of stairs. At the top of the staircase was a throne of God, and Baba was sitting on the throne. I looked at him, and I realized that he was God. I was thrilled at this discovery because it had taken me so long to come to this realization. According to Asim, prayer is a medium of miracles. I had been praying to God to come into my life, and He had answered my prayer. Though He did not come to me in a form I was expecting, it was a form that was right for me. From 2014 onward, I started dreaming about Baba regularly. In one of the dreams, he came to the Hollywood Center, sat on his chair, and granted darshan. He pointed to me to sit in the front. I knew right away that he wanted me to serve as an officer in the organization. A few months later, I was offered the position of devotional coordinator, and I simply couldn't refuse. I accepted it as an honor and a blessing to serve God. After all, hadn't He already shown His plan for me? My initiation and divine experience of oneness in 2016, I had another dream in which, one by one, devotees came to Baba and received his blessings. When my turn came, I just took Padnamaskar. Swami then put his hands on my head and said, "Om Shri Satya Sai Baba Namah." It was the first time he talked to me, even though it was a dream. I began crying and woke up with tears of joy. I knew this was my initiation and that I had received a mantra. On the same day, as I sat meditating on his form, I heard an inner voice say, "Say my name." So, I chanted, "Om Shri Satya Sai Baba Namah." Again, the voice told me, "Say my name." Again I chanted. This was repeated again and again, "Om Shri Satya Sai Baba Namah." And suddenly, I felt Bhagwan's presence and his voice saying, "Say my name." Now I felt his presence within and all around me. The voice kept repeating persistently, and I kept chanting. I was in total bliss. There was only God, and I was Him, Sri Satya Sai Baba. Then I asked myself, if I am Sai Baba, where is Daniela? I realized that she did not exist, and I laughed. I stayed in that bliss for a few days before I slowly got back to my small self-identity. However, this experience stays with me forever. My search for God was over. I found what I was looking for. My God, my Baba, and my true self. Miss Daniela Danilo.